Hey, everybody. Yo. POC. Can I hear you? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, we got to get that. Somehow we got to get there. Right. Okay. We can do it, progressives. Okay. All right. So my talk is Smart City versus Menacing City, a Wakanda Deferred. So let me break that down. All right. So welcome. I'm Matt. I'm the director of digital safety and privacy at a group called Tactical Technology Collective, which is an NGO based in Berlin. But I also have this thing called Crypto Harlem that I do here in New York City. So let's talk about this whole menacing city thing. So I was at this NetGain Internet of Things conference, Internet of Things, and Darren Walker from Ford said, if you care about cities, you can't simply think the smart city movement is necessarily a good thing. It's a smart cities movement, but it's also a menacing cities movement. If you don't understand the potential of smart cities to become menacing cities, then you don't understand the intersection of urban development and social justice. And it's at those intersections that the real change in the world and the real threats to our fundamental rights and the things that all these foundations like Ford, et cetera, care about, at those intersections are these dystopian and potentially bad things can happen. So this is a talk about bad things, but by good intended people, right? So Langston Hughes quote, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? I know many of you know this one, okay? And then Octavia Butler, sci-fi. I'm a big nerd, I love sci-fi. And in her book, Parable of the Sower, which came out like in the 90s, like 93 or something, she talks about way into the future, 2020, which is like almost here now, right? In a world where people live in these like gated communities, where they can have some semblance of a normal life. You know, you can have a garden, children can play, and it's only a few chapters in that you realize what's going on outside those walls. All chaos is reigning, and it's really like hell on earth. And that, to me, is basically smart cities defined, strangely enough. Cool. So this is Jacob Lawrence. Has this Great Migration piece of lot of artwork really capturing the black experience. So many black folks escaped slavery and uncertainty for a better life up north. What does that look like? And that's why so many black folks live in cities. So when we talk about cities, we're really talking about black folks and hopes and dreams. And then, of course, not a real city. I know a lot of kids will be upset about that. But as a comic book nerd, I used to read about this thing called Wakanda, and it was like an African nation that was super high tech. I never dreamed it'd be a movie that I would see like way too many times. But there it goes, you know? So shout outs to the black sci-fi people, like my friend Deji, okay? So this is just a boring slide about me. I'm a hacker, and I know what I'm talking about. That's the next slide. Okay. So yeah, it's okay. We can laugh. We're cool. All right. So this is the future that we were told, you know, this Star Trek future, where we had Russia and the United States together. Little did we know that'd be happening right now, right? But we had black folks, Asian folks, aliens, like aliens, yeah, you know, like everybody together, right? And yeah, that's the future that we were promised in like 1968. Okay, that's not a video that I'm not gonna play. It's nothing we're not gonna play. But now we go to kind of the now. My buddy Jackie, he's a tech nerd too, an amazing developer, and he lives, used to live out here in New York, now he's in Silicon Valley. And you know, he uses everything as soon as it comes out, bleeding edge technologist. And he uses Google Photos as soon as it came out, and it went through all of his photos and categorized everything. These are Jackie's pictures of skyscrapers. These are Jackie's pictures of cars. But Google Photos said these are Jackie's pictures of gorillas and categorized all of Jackie's friends. And on Twitter, he was outraged, and quickly Google staff came involved and got in that thread and like, is this true? Can you give us the logs? He had all the data. It really did happen. But how does stuff like this happen? I mean, this isn't beta. This wasn't like a, you know, tested by a friend. This was released to the public. Hey, that's me. All right, so another thing that Google had was this cool little app. You take a picture of yourself, and it would find a piece of artwork that looked like you, Google Art. So I took a picture, and it showed me this dude. And I thought, this has got to be a bug. So I pulled out the stats and got the data. I was ready to get my bug bounty. And then I looked at the photo again, and I am in that picture, according to Google. I'm the chair. My face is carved into it. Yeah. That got removed, by the way, okay, because, my buddy Kyle, thanks. This is a picture from Jaws Wang was showing that her camera is racist. It said, hey, this picture is taken, but someone doesn't have their eyes open in this picture, right? And this was, again, this is in hardware that went out and is sold to like millions of people. So how does this happen? If you talk to developers, you talk to these companies, they'll be like, there was no malice. We didn't mean that. It's not our fault. But actually, by omitting people of color from the sample data, you create these problems. When you have a developer team that has no people of color in it, this is what happens. They would have spotted this 1 second into hitting run or executing that code, right? Normalization of whiteness by making it the default is what creates these problems, right? A face is a face. It's not a white face. It's not a black face, right? But too much of our tech is centered in whiteness, and that's what creates this problem. Okay. Technology is a double-edged sword. It can give you nuclear power, and you can run a city for pennies, or it can give you nuclear weapons, and you could turn a city into ashes. And this is the crux of it. Every time someone tells you about an amazing piece of technology, you have to remember there's an equally amazing, horrible thing inside of it. And if we don't train ourselves to think this way, we are going to end up in a bad future. Technology is a double-edged sword, and we're told that a smart city is a snow globe of utopian awesomeness, right? You ever see a smart city, and it always has an icon that looks kind of like smart city, It's blue for some reason, and it fits into a snow globe literally, and there's like a little smart train always. There's always a smart train, right? Why is that? So whenever I see this picture, I'm like, okay, if there's a dome around the smart city, who lives outside the dome? Maybe that's a place for me and people who look like me. There's examples in our modern world of amazing places, huge cities that are bustling, but right outside, people living in extreme poverty. But if you follow the money, that poverty fuels the city. Whether it's children in the Philippines diving for gold, getting paid not what that gold is worth, so we can buy it, right? Or children in African nations digging for pieces of diamonds. In this earth is value, and it is those other people, the suspicious others, the marginalized, who have to derive the value so it can be fueled and other small group of people can live in a lap of luxury. So here's a smart bench, right? Even a bench could be smart. Your chair is not smart right now, but it could be, right? This bench is powered by the sun. It fuels itself. It has a little battery in there. You can charge up your phones on it. It'll have a million sensors. It'll tell you the time, what time the bus is coming. It's wonderful. It makes you want to throw out all your benches. And if you were a city, yeah, they would come to you and they'd say, we're going to give you this bench at cost, like below cost. We're going to subsidize this bench for you, city. Don't you worry, city. We're going to innovate. You're going to be high tech. Cities have like a little bit of a self-esteem problem. They all want to be innovators. And they're going to capitalize on that. And wow, how nice of this company to even sometimes give us smart tech for free. They're like, hey, city, it's on us. But if you look inside of that offer, you will see that money is what fuels this. And inside that device, it is digging deep into that earth and deriving gold and diamonds of data. The data is raw, but when that data is refined, it can be capitalized in ways you would not believe. How do we know this? Well, I have a Facebook account. You have a Facebook account? Right? You didn't do a data detox yet? You're still doing Facebook? It's okay. No shame. How much do you pay for Facebook? $0. Why do you pay $0? Because it's free. They want to give you this. They want you to connect with your friends. That's what Mark told me. Well, an intern at Facebook, do you know how much they make? Intern? $7,000 a month. I don't know how much you make, but I'm just saying, it's not bad, right? Software engineer, entry level, 126. You think you're making 6K? No, you're way over that, right? So it makes you think, how much is Facebook making that they can offer this to, honestly, children, right? Like, this is right out of school, right? Okay. Facebook has data centers all around the world, tons of machines. That's what Facebook actually looks like. I know you think Facebook looks like that thing on your monitor. This is what Facebook looks like, right? Data centers where they have deals with cities who are begging and lining up to have one built. So they can have half of the people, the town folk, work there as security, emptying the trash, keeping the computers happy and cool, right? The power cost of these cities is 30-something million per data center estimated, right? I don't know how much your power is, but that's a lot. And that's just one data center. But that doesn't put a dent in Facebook. Facebook's still able to operate and make tons of money, always in the black. When you put a picture up on Facebook, if you use this plugin that'll show you what Facebook is doing to it, or if you're a nerd, you can view the source code, and you'll see these alt tags. As soon as you put a picture up, it's like, this is sky, cloud, car, outdoor, right? This is two people standing, sky, mountain, tree, outdoor, nature, right? Everything's immediately categorized. And guess what, Instagrammers? It's happening to you too. Your data, as soon as you provide it, is being mined and valued, and money's being created. And Facebook, they're like not giving you the change, right? So it's not like you're like, hey, here's my data, and we have some kind of honest brokering here. No, they take it all, they make all that money off of it, they give you nothing. Facebook can turn a 2D picture into a 3D picture. They can take one picture of you and create a 3D picture of you, allowing them to find your face from any angle in any lighting. Okay. You could find the value of a Facebook user on this site used to be. Okay. I'm going to move faster because I want to do Q&A. I want to do a lot of those electronic questions. I like that, voting up those electronic questions. Bring it, okay? Okay. So Cambridge Analytica, that whole scandal, which a lot of people don't really fully understand, proves that even Facebook can be duped. And this data that they're stealing from you and giving you nothing for, but giving you turning into lots of money on their end, which to me, that seems like theft, right? To me, right? If I took something from you, you gave me a blazer, and I went to Buffalo Exchange in a hipster neighborhood, and I got $1 million for that blazer, and I knew it was worth $1 million, that to me is wrong, right? If I'm on the subway and I buy a comic book off of someone for 50 cents, but I know it's a rare original worth millions, that doesn't seem right. Cambridge Analytica tricked Facebook and took a copy of all that data on all of you. And that's how we found out about these shadow profiles. Not only does Facebook have a profile that you gave them, but it makes a profile for other people around you that don't have Facebook accounts. Facebook has a little electronic version of you, a little Westworld version of you living on their box, right? And they can feed ads to it and see how it reacts before it can run that ad on you. Free and liberate virtual you. Delete your Facebook account. I know no one's going to do that now. The phones, no phones came up, right? Okay. So what does it have to do with smart cities? Well, there's this thing called Sidewalk Labs, which is right here in New York City. That's where this company is founded. And Sidewalk Labs is reimagining cities to improve the quality of life. Thank you, Sidewalk Labs. So in Toronto, up north in Canada, there's a city. And it's a major city, and it's awesome. And it's like, I go there all the time. It's kind of like a mix between New York and San Francisco. But that city has a little bit of a self-esteem problem. People don't really treat Toronto like a great city. And they have a waterfront on the east side, and there's not much going on there. So the Toronto Waterfront Group, they're like a nonprofit, and they've been working for years to revitalize that. And they made a deal with Sidewalk Labs. They said, listen, if anybody wants to bid to make this a nice little area here, do something here. And some real estate investors bid, and the kind of business people bid on that with their ideas. But Sidewalk Labs came in, and they had the winning bid. They wanted to create a mini city, like a small Toronto, run by Google, which is, run by Alphabet. Sorry, okay, so, because Alphabet is not Google, okay? Okay, so run by Alphabet. And Sidewalk Labs would build on that front a city like no other, powered by data. They would have people living there. You would have a structure that was built off-site and just kind of plopped down. And that structure has walls that could be moved. You could turn a one-family place into a two-family place, into a studio, into a business by just sliding things around. A city of the future run by Google. And Sidewalk Labs has all these other pieces of it, many companies that it's spinning off and creating. You might see these kiosks in New York, right? Link NYC, for this company called Intersection, which came from Sidewalk Labs, and things like that, okay? Some of the ideas they had for this new amazing city inside Toronto is a giant sidewalk, right? Like I live in Harlem, you know? I've lived there for almost 2 decades. We have giant sidewalks. People, if you go up in the summertime playing dominoes, maybe even grilling some barbecue, whatever you want to do. So they want to do that, and how do you create the giant sidewalk? You remove the streets. You take over half the street. Where will you park, you might ask? Well, let me tell you about this Google City in Toronto. It would have no cars. No cars are allowed in this zone. How do people get around? Through amazing bike paths and through these like trolley cars and self-driving cars, which they call automated vehicles, or the cuter term AVs, because self-driving car sounds creepy. It's an AV, right? On the bottom picture there is a little older stick figure woman walking across the crosswalk. But that traffic light is not a normal traffic light. It is a reactive light. It can see that there's a person there. And it will know that this is a woman walking and she's slow and not let anyone drive until she gets across the side of the street, like a good Boy Scout. But when I see that, I see a piece of technology that can see people and can sense movement and can tell you who's going where, and can talk to all the other traffic lights about where this person's moving and where they're going, because a lot of people realize that smart cities are surveillance cities. Okay. The Human Project is something run out of NYU, also here in New York, and they're looking for a few brave women and men, right? Or gender nonconforming folks. These folks, 10,000 of them who live in New York, will give up all of their data, everything they do, everywhere they go, everything they eat, every person they talk to, even their medical information, for 20 years. Why? Why would you do that? Because it's science for science sake, really. They say like, well, I read in one of their materials, Galileo didn't know what he would see when he pointed his telescope at the sky, right? So if we just collect the data, we'll find magic in there. We might find planets in there, right? Okay. Yeah. You know, smart cities and the technology behind them cost a lot of money. And the team of urbanists and technologists that they bring are all-stars. And let me tell you, the lawyers, they're really big all-stars, right? And they cost almost nothing, because the data that you create is going to turn into products and diamonds, but not for surveillance. It's not the worst thing. It's to sell to other cities, and especially the city that it's in. When Google collects information on traffic patterns and who's living where and how people move, that is not open data for us all to use. That's data for them to mine and turn into products. And how easy do you understand the point of pain of a group when you're monitoring them under a microscope and then marketing and creating the perfect thing for them to buy at the price that you know they could just afford? When you're a city, that could be your IT, it could be your infrastructure, it could be everything. Because this is a gamble, but they don't want to just be in that harbor. They want this part of Toronto to grow. Moving forward. So questions are our swords, data is our shield. Don't lose your data, don't give it away, and ask a lot of questions. I'm going to run through some stuff pretty quickly, but always ask, what are the civil liberty and civil rights abuses that could come from this technology? Because the people who developed this technology, they know it, okay? Can this technology be used by law enforcement to hurt the very people in my community that you're telling me that you're helping, right? Is this data worth anything? How much is it worth? And what is done with the profits? Can I get in on that? Until we start asking that, a smart city is going to be a smart exploitation of us. Okay. Okay, boom. Just going to move through here pretty quickly. This is just a thing from 2000 that TSA agents target black women more than anyone else. They were just searching them constantly, right? But it wasn't for any reason. It's just like an idea in people's heads. And this is like the bias that we have as human beings affects the way that we use everything, whether it's tech or security or safety. Here in New York City, we have this thing called omnipresence, where if you ever go to the hood, you'll see these petrol-generating canisters that shoot lamps. They fuel light, blowing light into first-floor windows of public housing. Now I just see blankets, like stapled, gunned, and taped on people's windows, because these things are so loud and so bright. The idea was crime happens in darkness. So if we blast light all day, there'll be no crime. But if you check, the people of Norway will tell you that's not true, right? Okay. Okay. These are my pictures of what these things look like, right? In some neighborhoods, omnipresence looks like basically a mini police presence with a mini portable police offices around the entire neighborhood. Right? If you don't walk through one of these neighborhoods, you'll never see this. There's gang conspiracy charges, which are things that are pretty easy to loop someone into. So by association, you get looped into this charge. If you know someone who committed a crime, you can be pulled in as someone who might have been a part of a gang that conspired to commit this crime. And this is how whole areas of our city are people are being removed. Young folks wake up to their doors being kicked in, and then by the lot, they're pulled out and charges are brought on them. There's one of my neighbors, Jelani Henry, who's a friend of mine. He was in Rikers for 18 months on a gang conspiracy charge, waiting for his day in court before he was just let go and said, here, you're free now, right? No explanation, no sorry. This is what it looks like. It's in conjunction usually with like federal forces, almost like you're testing stuff out because you don't need a couple of dudes who are. Okay. We have monitoring of social media, which makes me not trust the tech people out there, right? Companies like Geofedia and Dataminer, who originally were funded by groups like Twitter, et cetera, right? And have special access to data. They can comb through vast amounts of data quickly. There's not one person looking at a Twitter feed, right? They can say, who was that person that said F Trump? Not like anyone would say that in this room, but who was that person? Who was the first person to say that in this city? And then who retweets that stuff? Who is organizing these folks? All of that can be found in a matter of milliseconds because of these companies and their technology. Cool. Let's kind of move forward. I want to get to questions. Okay, so every piece of tech that we use has a front door for law enforcement. For Facebook, if you went to facebook.com/records, that's the front door for law enforcement there. Any security force in the world, you put in your email address, and you're given a link where you can say, I want to request data on that user. That data is not stuff that you are sharing on your public wall. It's any data you've created, the data you can download. It might even be a chat that you're having with just one of your friends. Okay, let's move forward. Boom. On Google, there's this thing called LURS. It's the exact same thing. Law enforcement request system, lurs.google.com, front door, access. The thing is about these sites, it is access for law enforcement, access for prosecution, but not access for defense attorneys, not access for you. I'm going to move past nuisance abatement. Boom. Of course, we've seen CCTV cameras. There's these things that are skywatch towers, which are also in certain neighborhoods. I'm imagining that in our smart city, we see things that we want to see. Avocado toast on every corner, right? But outside our smart city, we have a heavily surveilled city. This is my neighborhood. We have these skywatch towers. It's a police booth on robot legs, right? And right over there to the left, we have an electronic mini police car to replace those little patrol boxes that you see, right? ShotSpotter is a technology that can track the trajectory of bullets by listening to the speed of sound. Looks like that, if you ever see these things on telephone posts, etc. I'm just going to move forward. Just some information about how it doesn't actually work, because people don't fire guns and then stand in one place, right? Okay. In Baltimore, there's a company that was flying a plane in a circle, just taping downward at the inhabitants of the city, right? Especially in black and brown neighborhoods, giving a 24/7 live view of what's going on, surveilling those areas. It seems like something out of Parable of the Sower or some sci-fi, but it's yesterday's news, right? This company, Persistent Surveillance Solutions, or System, sorry, is the one that came up with that, which is someone who's like, look, I like the way drones worked when I was working in the military. And I thought, could I make a cheaper drone with a plane and a high-resolution camera? And that's what this company basically does. We know that, and if you go to the workshop that I'm in, cheap plug, sorry, it's coming up after this. There's a predictive sentencing and predicting policing that's done with technology, right? With the predictive sentencing, it says to a judge, you should give this much time to this person because our algorithm has said they will be a repeat offender, or looking at their past, or even who their family is or who their family members were, you should sentence them harshly or leniently, right? And with predictive policing, it says these neighborhoods need police forces there versus these other ones, criminalizing people by their latitude and longitude. Where the right might actually be in prison, sentenced to time that they're forced to carry. A curfew tells them when to go home, tells them how long to stay in their home. They are actually living a life in prison, right? Technology has tried to give us these kind of like video phones for prisons, where a person who's in prison can talk to their family. But prisons are now charging the families huge amounts of money to even use these services and replacing in-person visits. This is we had these data analysts who feed our ComStat data, and some officers were cooking the books, just small amounts of data, just making small changes because it's kind of like a baseball card. But it's not a baseball card. You change a small number one place, and you completely change how the algorithm works. And you completely change the stats. And a lot of this information is based on, if not racist data, manipulated, badly created, garbage data. It's garbage in, garbage out. OK, so here's how to contact me. I think I have some time for questions. No, I don't. I tried. OK. Well, I would say this in closing, right? There's nothing smart about a smart city, except for its cool name. We already have cities, and those cities have problems. And you cannot solve social problems with tech solutions. That's not how it works. OK, thank you.